The valley stretched endlessly, filled with a gray morning mist that curled like restless spirits rising from the earth, and as Arion gazed down upon it, he could almost imagine the shapes of the past wandering through it, heroes who failed, kings who fell, innocents who were swallowed by the relentless hunger of time itself. Every breath he took felt like inhaling the forgotten stories of this broken land. The once bustling settlements that dotted the valley floor were now nothing but charred foundations and crumbling walls overtaken by creeping vines, as if nature was attempting to bury the memory of everything mankind had tried to build. The silence was heavy, unnatural, the kind of silence that presses against your ears until you begin to hear your own heartbeat echoing like a distant drum. Arion tightened his grip on the carved staff he carried, a relic passed down through generations, etched with runes that shimmered faintly whenever danger approached. Today, the runes glowed like embers. He could not ignore that. The signs were aligning. The old prophecies whispered of a morning like this, when the world would tremble before a great awakening, when shadows would stop hiding and instead rise to reclaim the throne they believed was stolen from them long before Arion was even born. The sky, washed in pale gold, held a strange bruise of purple clouds at its center, swirling like a slow, enormous vortex. Arion felt the pull of it in his bones, a tug that was both terrifying and familiar, like hearing your name whispered in a dark room by a voice you almost recognized but desperately wish you didn't. Legend spoke of the Eye of Ruin, a celestial scar that appears only when the veil between realms grows thin. And though many dismissed those tales as old-world superstition, Arion knew better. He had seen enough to understand that the universe does not care if mortals believe, it only cares that the appointed hour arrives. Footsteps echoed behind him, soft yet deliberate. Lyra emerged from the shadows of the broken observatory, her hair whipped by the wind, her expression carved with equal parts determination and dread. She carried a map of ancient parchment pressed against her chest as if guarding the very last hope left in the world. "It's opening, isn't it?" she whispered, though the answer was already written in her eyes. Arion nodded slowly. "We don't have much time." Lyra approached the edge of the platform and looked down at the valley, her gaze lingering on the ruins of her childhood home somewhere beyond the veil of mist. "You can feel it too," she murmured. "The stirring, the heartbeat of something waking." Arion didn't reply. He didn't need to. The earth rumbled faintly beneath their feet, a low growl that vibrated through the stone and into their bones. It wasn't an earthquake. It wasn't thunder. It was something alive, something huge, something ancient. The wind began to gather force, spiraling into a narrow funnel that whipped toward the sky, and for a moment, Arion could see streaks of dark violet lightning dancing within the swirling clouds. The eye was widening. "We have to move now," Arion said, turning away from the valley. "Once the gateway opens completely, the Shadowborne won't wait. They'll pour through like a flood." Lyra swallowed hard, gripping the map tighter. "And the others, do you think any survived?" Arion hesitated. The truth was heavy on his tongue, but he forced it out. "If they did, they're running out of time too." Lyra lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. "Then we can't fail, not after everything we've already lost." Arion rested a hand on her shoulder, firm but gentle. "We won't fail, not if we remember why we fight." The two exchanged a silent vow before descending the cracked staircase spiraling down the side of the observatory. Every step echoed like a countdown. The wind howled louder with each passing second, carrying with it whispers that did not belong to this world. They were voices speaking a language older than creation, a chorus of hunger and anticipation. Arion tried to block it out, but the voices seeped into his mind like cold water. "Open the door, return what you stole, let us in." He clenched his jaw and pressed forward. At the base of the observatory, their path split into three ancient roads, each lined with broken statues of guardians who once stood watch over the valley before time and war reduced them to eroded silhouettes. Lyra unrolled the map, her fingers trembling as she traced a path along its faded lines. "The Temple of Aeloris lies beyond the ridge," she said. "If the legends are true, its Heartstone is the only thing strong enough to seal the gateway." A sudden roar tore through the sky. They both flinched instinctively, looking up to see the swirling vortex at the center of the clouds rip open like a wound, spilling tendrils of darkness that writhed like living serpents. The eye was nearly fully awakened. Lyra's breath caught. "We'll never make it in time." Arion stepped forward, eyes blazing with resolve. "We will, because we don't have a choice." And then, to their horror, the first creature stepped through the tear in the sky. It was humanoid only in the vaguest sense, its body composed of liquid shadow, its eyes glowing like dying stars. It screamed, a sound that seemed to tear reality itself. More shadows followed, pouring out of the rift like a dark tide. Lyra stumbled backward. There are too many, Arion, we can't fight all of them. Arion tightened his grip on his staff, the runes erupting in light. We're not here to win a battle. We're here to keep the world alive. The creatures descended upon the valley, moving like a single massive swarm. Houses collapsed beneath them, the ground split open, trees shriveled into dust, but through the chaos, Arion and Lyra ran, toward the ridge, toward the sliver of hope, toward the Heartstone that could turn the tides. Every heartbeat felt borrowed, every breath felt stolen, and the eye above them pulsed, growing wider, darker, hungrier. Time was running out, the world was waking, and so was its doom. Yet as they pushed forward, racing through a land collapsing into nightmare, a spark burned within both of them, not fear, not desperation, but purpose. Because they were the last of the Lightbearers, the final guardians of a dying prophecy, and if they fell now, the world would fall with them. And so they ran, not knowing if the next step would be their last, but refusing to stop until they either saved the world, or died trying. And to everyone watching this unfold, to every dreamer, fighter, and believer, remember that stories like this only grow when people like you support them. So if you're feeling the tension, the adventure, the heartbeat of destiny rising with every second, make sure you subscribe to the channel to follow this epic journey and fuel the creation of more powerful stories that can ignite imaginations around the world. The climb toward the ridge felt like moving through the ribs of some ancient titan, the jagged rocks rising around Arion and Lyra like the bones of a world long dead, each step echoing with the weight of destiny pressing against their backs as the sky behind them roared with the screams of the Shadowborne spilling across the valley. The distant villages that once shimmered with life were now engulfed in spreading pools of darkness that pulsed like living nightmares, and still the two Lightbearers pushed forward, their breaths sharp, their legs burning, their spirits clinging to the single faint hope that the temple of Aelorus still stood beyond the jagged ridge. The wind changed as they climbed, no longer wild and frantic, but slow, deliberate, as if something enormous was inhaling from the other side of the mountain. Arion felt a pressure on his chest, a pull like unseen fingers curling around his heart, urging him forward and warning him back all at once. Lyra stumbled but caught herself, clutching the glowing map as if it were the pulse of her own life. Something is calling, she whispered, and Arion nodded, for he felt it too, a low hum vibrating beneath the stone, a voice without words, a presence older than the world itself awakening. As they reached the crest of the ridge, the land beyond revealed itself in a sweeping, breathtaking, and terrifying panorama, a vast plateau split by a colossal fissure that glowed with molten gold, and at its center, half buried in the earth yet still proud and imposing, stood the remnants of the temple of Aelorus. Its once luminous spires were cracked and leaning, its great archway shattered, but the Heartstone chamber deep within still pulsed faintly, emitting a soft, rhythmic glow like the heartbeat of a dying star. Lyra exhaled in awe and trembling fear. It's still alive. Arion felt tears prick unexpectedly at the corners of his eyes. For generations they had believed the temple lost, swallowed by time and ruin. But hope, it seemed, had been waiting quietly. They descended toward the ancient structure, the air growing warmer, thick with power, and the hum beneath their feet intensifying into a deep, resonant thrum that felt like standing atop a giant drum but hearing the beat from within. The doorway into the temple's inner corridor yawned like the open mouth of a resting leviathan, its walls covered in faded murals depicting battles between beings of light and shadow. Lyra traced her fingers along the carvings, whispering the old incantations she had learned as a child, the sacred language of the Lightbearers, forgotten by all but a few. As they walked deeper inside, the light of the Heartstone grew stronger, casting long, wavering shadows across the ancient hall. But with every step closer, Arion felt the temperature drop suddenly, sharply, unnaturally. A cold presence slid down his spine, and he realized with horror that they were not alone. From the darkness behind a cracked pillar, a figure emerged, not a creature of pure shadow like those pouring from the sky, but something far worse, a hybrid, a being once human but corrupted by shadow, its form twisted and its face a mask of both agony and malice. Its eyes glowed with a sickly mix of gold and void, and its voice sliced through the air like a shard of ice. Lightbearers, you're too late. Lyra gasped, stepping back, but Arion stood firm, staff glowing with defiant brilliance. The Heartstone still beats, Arion said, lifting his chin. As long as it breathes, hope breathes. The corrupted one hissed, the sound like metal scraping bone. Hope, it mocked. There is no hope. The eye has awakened, the gate is open, and your world is already ours. Its body shifted, rippling like smoke trying to remember the shape of flesh. But I will grant you a gift, you may watch the end from within the Heartstone's glow, helpless and forgotten. It lunged. Arion reacted instinctively, slamming his staff into the ground and summoning a blast of radiant force that pushed the creature back, but only for a moment. Lyra began chanting, her voice shaky but growing stronger as she invoked the ancient syllables of binding. Light swirled around her fingertips, forming intricate sigils that flowed into the air like glowing rivers. The creature shrieked and hurled itself toward her, but Arion intercepted it, clashing staff against claws of shadow as sparks of darken. Brilliant energy exploded between them. The battle raged within the temple, echoing through ancient halls that had not witnessed such conflict for millennia. When Lyra completed her incantation, a wave of blinding radiance swept through the chamber, freezing the creature mid-lunge, its body contorted by both fury and fear. The light shattered the shadows within it, leaving behind only a fading silhouette of the human it once had been. As it collapsed, it whispered two final words, "It begins." Silence fell heavy. Too heavy. Arion and Lyra exchanged a look that held every question and every dread possibility, but they had no time to speak. The Heartstone pulsed suddenly, brightly, violently, responding to their presence or warning of what approached. They stepped into the Heartstone chamber where the colossal crystal hovered above a pool of golden energy, its surface cracked like the shell of something trying to hatch. Lyra's breath trembled. "It's weakening faster than the legend said." Arion stepped closer, feeling waves of warmth and sorrow radiating from the stone. "Then we must strengthen it. Now." Lyra opened the ritual scroll, her voice steady as she read the invocation of restoration. The Heartstone flared in response, but instead of stabilizing, the glow flickered chaotically. Arion felt the ground tremble. The air tightened, and then they heard it. A roar from outside the temple, massive, earth-shaking, bone-deep. The Shadowborne had found them. The ground cracked as enormous taloned hands clawed their way onto the plateau. Dark shapes loomed on the horizon, moving with terrifying speed. Lyra's voice broke. "Arion, there are thousands." He looked at her, determination blazing through the fear. "Then we stand until the world has nothing left to stand for." They pressed their palms to the Heartstone, pouring what remained of their light into it. The stone glowed brighter, stronger, resisting the darkness clawing at reality's edges. But the shadows drew closer. The temple shook, the sky split open, and the fate of their world teetered on the edge of existence. To everyone following this epic journey, brace yourself, for what comes next will shake everything. And if you want to witness the rise, the fall, and the rebirth of worlds like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay part of this adventure and help bring more powerful stories to life.